serving as a direct sequel to the very, very best film in the Transformers franchise, Bumblebee, from a few years ago, and also serving as a prequel to the Shia LaBeouf movies in the franchise, and also introducing us to the Maximals from the Beast Wars, I guess, cartoon series. Let's talk about Transformers Rise of the Beasts. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my spoiler-free review for the new film Transformers Rise of the Beasts. This is in theaters right now, and I sort of mentioned in the intro there where it is kind of in the lineage of all of these Transformers movies. Before we launch into more specifics about the film and my thoughts on it, let me welcome you into Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding this video. We've got a ton of great movie and TV reviews for you to check out on the channel, and please consider subscribing down below. Would love to have you aboard in that capacity. Even maybe hit that notification bell to find out all of the videos I drop. And then also, you can like this video, comment down below. All that stuff does help the channel out. All right, so look, I'm not a huge fan of this series. Bumblebee is, I think, by far the best offering that they've given us, and that's the Haley Steinfeld movie from a few years ago. And I say that as sort of the Michael Bay live-action version of Transformers. I suppose probably the best Transformers movie ever was the one from the 80s. And I didn't watch it at the time, but I watched it, I don't know, about 7 or 8 years ago. And it was quite enjoyable, certainly for what it was. And we do get some longtime voice actors from the series, including Peter Cullen as Optimus Prime in this version as well. But essentially, it's the same type of story. This one takes place in the 90s, as with, the lineage of being a sequel to Bumblebee. But we have Anthony Ramos in this one leading the charge, taking over for, Shia LaBeouf, and then Mark Wahlberg, and then Haley Steinfeld. But it's, basically the same, this person who's doing what they do. In this case, he's, trying to keep his younger brother in healthcare. They don't have insurance, and he's sick, and so he ends up turning to kind of a life of crime, and in the process stumbles upon a transformer, and is very scared about it. But then they take him in, and then they become friends, and it's it's the same exact thing that we keep seeing with this franchise. So nothing really new there. But the addition of Anthony Ramos as the new person is kind of the new part. But in any event, then, a bunch of other stuff happens. There's this whole subplot where they're trying to find the pieces of this, ancient artifact to put together. But obviously people come to these movies not for, the plots and all of that, the character development. No, they come for the giant robots fighting each other. And yes, we do have some of that here. Not a ton. I think I would have liked to see more, but look, it keeps it fairly on brand. The biggest kind of, revelation, if you want to call it that, is the introduction of the Maximals from the Beast Wars. Now, I'm not really, into the whole lore of the Transformers. Growing up, it was kind of on in the background. My brothers would watch it. I was more of a He-Man person myself. But anyway, Beast Wars is, one of the very popular things to come out of Transformers, so it makes sense that we finally have put them in one of the movies. I wouldn't say they're in it a ton. We see them at the very beginning, and then we see them in the big battle, at the end. But it's, Autobots versus Decepticons yet again, as we always have. And so some newcomers to the franchise this time around in terms of voice work include Michelle Yeoh, of course, hot off an Oscar win for Everything Everywhere All at Once. So we've got her. We've got Liza Koshy, who, is very popular online. Peter Dinklage is here. Ron Perlman is here as Optimus Primal, who is the leader of the Maximals, who is a gorilla. And then you've got Pete Davidson. Why do we keep putting him in things? His voice work is terrible. I think the last thing he did voice work for was that horrible Marmaduke movie for Netflix, which I gave an F to. Look, I think Pete Davidson is sort of good in his lane. I gave his recent show Bupkis on Peacock a very high rating. So it's not that I necessarily hate Pete Davidson. I just he just is very, very narrow in his scope. He's good at playing himself. And it turns out in the real world, he's not actually a Transformer. So he stinks at voicing a Transformer. I just don't think he's a good voice actor. And he just ruins every scene that he's in the movie. So, all right. Other than the fact that this is a very, run-of-the-mill Transformers story and the whole side plot that is basically irrelevant, and sort of the human component, which I will admit is probably better this time around than some of the ones we've gotten before. I'll be honest, I don't really remember what the deal is with Shia LaBeouf and his human character or whatever. Mark Wahlberg's, I think, was very basic. Haley Steinfeld's was good. But here at least we've got, look, Anthony Ramos is a charismatic actor, really like all the ones that we've had before. And so he does a fine job, talking with the Transformers and, becoming their pal and acting scared when he doesn't know what's going on and whatever. So it's fine. But I will admit some of the character stuff I kind of could get behind. But again, for a movie like this, it's kind of unnecessary. It's sort of an ancillary afterthought. But okay, for, in terms of these Transformer movies, it was okay. But so let's get to some of the good stuff, because it's not all bad. This is certainly much, much better than the lowest lows of the franchise, which are number 3 and number 5, I think. Because I think if I'm counting right, in terms of live action, I think this is number 7. Because we had 3 with Shia, 2 with Mark Wahlberg, Bumblebee with Haley Steinfeld, and then this one. But in any event, those were by far, the worst of the series. This one, a far cry from Bumblebee, but it's kind of, average or middling for this franchise. I will say that the CGI has come a long way since the Shia LaBeouf era. At the time, it was pretty cool to look at, but I would imagine, and I'm not going to test this theory out because I really don't want to watch it ever again. It's just not my thing. But I would imagine that the CGI is pretty dated from, 2007, 2008, whatever. So the battle scenes actually looked really cool. It just takes us so long to get to the big one. There's one about a half hour in when we realize, the Decepticons are also trying to get this artifact. And so there's, a battle scene at the museum, and that's pretty cool too. But then it's another hour before we get to the next and final really big battle scene. It looks great, but it takes us a little while to get there. This movie, like a lot of the other Transformers movies, is a long one. It's a bit over 2 hours. Not a ton. I think maybe 2 hours and 10 minutes or something. But, I think they could have trimmed the fat a little bit off of this. But there is an interesting wrinkle that happens towards the end, and we're not going to talk spoilers. I think it actually might have been better as a mid-credits or an end-credits sequence instead of sort of ending the movie, because there is one mid-credit sequence, but it's sort of a ho-hum one compared to the reveal at the end of the film. And I will admit it makes me a little intrigued about where they're going with this franchise next. And so as a result, look, this is gonna, I think, scratch an itch. And I kind of said similar things when I reviewed the latest Fast and Furious movie. I think the Transformers people, the powers that be, whatever, Hasbro, know what the audience wants. I don't think they give it to them near enough in this particular entry. But for someone like myself who is, sort of a little more middling on the franchise anyway, I think it was enjoyable enough for an afternoon at the movies. For a movie that's supposed to introduce us to the Maximals and, here's these, cool things. We really barely see them. It's like that Godzilla movie that Godzilla was barely in, the one with Bryan Cranston a few years ago. So I was getting a little shades of that too. But in any event, this one I think is a middling affair for the series. I leave Transformers Rise of the Beasts with a C-. Certainly not great, but a far cry from the worst in the series. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Dan Reviews It.